Hello and welcome to the Business Data webinar. You have a menu in the top right corner of your screen. The red button with the white arrow allows you to expand and contrast the webinar menu so you can write in questions and comments. There will be opportunities to ask questions at the end and you will be on mute throughout, so we can't hear you. It just stops a clatter of voices, sort of making things a little bit messy. Okay. So today the session will split into two parts. Myself, I will deliver the first part. I'm James Scott, and halfway through I will hand over to Beata Lickboard, my colleague. Let's run a little poll. Just want to make sure everybody can hear what we're doing here. So I'm going to run a small poll, and where are we? Let's launch this. If you could please just tick either yes or no and let us know whether you can hear us okay. That would be really useful. I want to make sure everyone can hear. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. Everybody can. That's good. Excellent. Okay, we'll carry on then. If you do find you have any problems as we go on, just check your volume, check that your speaker headset is plugged in. And there's also a telephone number on the invitation that you were sent by email. So if you do have any problems later, you can press dial back in using that. Okay, so this is me on the right, James Scott. I'm the Senior User Support and Training Officer for Secure Lab. And Beata, my colleague who is with us today, is also part of that same team. Okay, so what will we cover today? We will basically look at some business survey areas, look at some broad areas and some of the data sets we hold with them. We'll also look at some examples of research that's come out of use of those particular data sets. Then we'll look at the structure of the business data sets, then how to apply to access them, and also a new part of this webinar about access to international business data via the UK Data Service. The slides, basically the recording of this webinar will be available probably within a day or two on our website under the News and Events tabs. So if you go to that and go to past events and then look for the Business Data webinar, the new version, this one that we are doing as we speak, should be there in the next couple of days. Okay, so really with business microdata, a lot of the stuff that we hold comes originally from the ONS. And ONS conducts a range of business surveys, the majority of which are collected under statute. There is really some data for most business organisations in the UK, and it's generally divided into reporting units, enterprises and local units. Now Beata will explain that in more detail later on. I may make passing reference to it before we get there, but she'll explain it in detail later. And obviously there's low-level geography there, down to postcode, that kind of thing. And the beauty of a lot of these business data sets is that they can be linked together, and that's very common for our researchers to do that. Generally, large businesses will receive a long form and smaller businesses a shorter form to sort of reduce their administrative burden. Okay, so this is what we're going to look at today. Kind of broken this down into 5 broad areas. So areas such as innovation, research and development, earnings and skills, productivity and employment relations, international trade and foreign direct investment, and the environment. Let's have a look at the first of these broad areas, the innovation, research and development sort of area. So what have we got here? This is just a selection really, but we've got the e-commerce survey. Now this is the only survey to measure ICT activity and e-commerce within UK businesses, including foreign-owned. What it does is it samples UK businesses from most standard industrial classification codes, and it generally covers between 5,000 and 10,000 businesses. We then have the IIA, the investment and intangible assets. This is UK businesses in the production and service sectors with 10 or more employees and registered for VAT and or PAYE. It covers approximately 840 to 1,180 businesses, and as well as R&D, a wider range of intangibles such as training, software, branding, design, business processes, etc. are also covered. Next we have the BIRD. This is a fairly well used one. This supplies data for policy purposes on science and technology. It's used by the OECD and Eurostat for international comparisons. Also, though, this covers approximately 3,500 to 26,000 organisations and looks at in-house expenditure on R&D and how much is brought in. Next, we have the UKIS. Now, this is much more widely used, I would say, the UK Innovation Survey, and I think we'll have a closer look at that one. Okay, so with the UKIS, it's a Europe-wide community innovation survey, and it's the main source of information on business innovation in the UK, which looks at major changes aimed at enhancing a firm's competitive position, performance, know-how, or capabilities. For example, new or significantly improved goods, services, or processes of making or providing them. It's based on UK businesses with more than 10 employees, and it provides the main source of information on business innovation in the UK. It's used widely across government regions and by the research community. Excuse me. It represents the UK's contribution to the Europe-wide Community Innovation Survey. The purpose of the survey is to collect information about business innovation in the UK. So an enterprise is defined as being active in innovation if it has either introduced a new or significantly improved good, service or process, or if it has engaged in innovation projects that are not yet complete, or if it is engaged in longer-term innovation activities such as basic research and development or technology watch, if it has had innovation-related expenditure, if it has formally cooperated with other enterprises or institutions on innovation. So yeah, as you can see, it covers quite a bit of stuff there. And this is kind of, it covers 16,000 enterprises roughly. And here are some of the types of innovation that it covers. So as you can see here from this list, we're looking at things like internal R&D, computer software and hardware, training, changes to product or service design, launch advertising, market research, advanced machinery, acquisition of external knowledge. So it covers quite a few areas of innovation. When we look at some of the research that has come out of the use of the UKIS, these are a few of those. I mean, this is a tiny snapshot, really. It's kind of what we can get on a slide, but I think this shows the sort of range of things that you can do with UKIS. So we have stuff here on immigration, persistence and change, financing versus knowledge, universities, and intangible assets. And that's just 5 out of many publications that have come out of using the UKIS. It really is a very small selection, just to give you an idea of the range of things you can do with it. Okay, so let's have a look at our next broad area, earnings and skills. So in this we have the new earnings survey. And this, there are various years available actually. They're not all secure data sets. Their panel data sets are available via secure access. So yeah, we've got that to start with. Then we've got the Occupational Pension Scheme Survey. This gives a detailed view of occupational pension provision in the UK by organisation, and it covers areas such as membership, contributions, transfers, increases, that kind of thing. Next up we have the Monthly Wages and Salary Survey. This is the main source of information for 3 key indicators of short-term earnings generated by the Office for National Statistics. And these 3 indicators are the average earnings index, the average weekly earnings, and the index of labour costs per hour. This is distributed monthly to approximately 8,800 businesses and covers some 12.8 million employees. There's also the National Employer Skills Survey. This includes information about skills deficiencies and workforce development and actually helps to inform government policy. There's also the Scottish Employer Skills Survey, as you might imagine is much the same, but just covers Scotland. One of the most widely used data sets in this area is the Annual Survey of Hours and Earnings, and I think we'll have a closer look at that one. Okay, so we tend to refer to it as the ASH. It's a 1% sample of working individuals aged 16 plus. That's approximately 140 to 185,000 per year. This is information from national insurance records. You can construct a panel data set, and it replaced the new earnings survey, which goes back to 1975. The employer completes this, so the data on wages and hours are considered by some to be more accurate than some other surveys, for instance the labour force survey. So, not too far. What this also includes is information on earnings, hours, bonuses, overtime, pensions, age, gender, industry, occupation, all those kind of things. And the Low Pay Commission use ASH to provide evidence on the impact of the minimum wage. This is crucial for evidence-based recommendations. Official published data is not available at a sufficient level of detail, so access to the microdata here is quite essential for this kind of work. Now, some examples of research that's come out of using the ASH. Again, this is a tiny, tiny snapshot of the stuff that's come out of the use of ASH. But we've got things here on the effects of road construction on wages, industry knowledge spillovers, the effects of incentive pay, productivity, investments and profits. And that really is just the tip of the iceberg. Let's have a look at the next of our 5 broad areas, productivity and employment relations. So here we have the annual respondents database, the ARD, and the annual business survey, the ABS. We'll have a look at each of the data sets within this broad area individually, because they are some of our most widely used ones. So the ARD, sorry, I've gone a little too far there. Let's have a look at the list first, actually. There's also the business structure database. There's the monthly production inquiry, the workplace and employment relations survey, and that's the list ultimately, but we'll look at each one in turn as they are so widely used. So the ARD, in the ARD you can see differences in productivity between firms with different organisational structures, and it covers employment, turnover, purchases, capital and other expenditure, etc. It has over 100 key economic variables. It's one of the reasons why it's used so widely. And the data are in 2 parts. There's an employment record and financial information. And there are also various geographies which go all the way down to postcode. ARD is a census of large businesses and a stratified sample of smaller ones. And it's created out of other surveys, the ABI1 and the ABI2. They're converted into a single consistent format linked by IDBR references over time. The ABS replaced ARD in 2008, although it only collects financial data. Employment data at this point was collected by the Business Register and Employment Survey. As an addition to this, we have the ARD-X database. Now, this was deposited in the summer of 2016 and was created by researchers at the ONS Virtual Microdata Laboratory, it's now the Secure Research Service, and also the University of the West of England. What this does is it allows users of ARD to continue their analysis even though the annual business inquiry, which was used to create ARD, ceased in 2008. And what ARD-X contains really are harmonised variables from 1998 to 2014. There is more information on the website about this, but yeah, that's quite useful really. Really, ARD-X is created from 2 ONS surveys, the annual business inquiry and the annual business survey. The ABI has an employment survey and a second survey for financial information. The ABS only really connects the financial data and so is supplemented with employment data in the Business Register and Employment Survey. So some topics that have come out of using ARD, and this really is very much a tiny snippet really. But we have things here, the examples here of publications. We have things like outward foreign direct investment strategies, national minimum wage, regional selective assistance, migration and productivity. And as with all of these examples that we looked at, this really is a very small snapshot. Okay, let's have a look at the business structure database, another widely used data set that we hold. This covers employment turnover, standard industrial classification codes, foreign ownership, legal status, birth, death codes, that kind of stuff. And the data is divided into enterprises and local units, which, as I said, we will cover in greater detail later on. It covers up to 4 million enterprises and up to 5.5 million local units. The geography is quite wide-ranging, all the way from government office regions down to postcode. Sorry, I've gone too far there. The BSD also contains a small number of variables for almost all business organisations in the UK, and this is derived from an IDBR snapshot complemented with ONS business surveys. Next, we'll have a look at the monthly production inquiry. This includes turnover, export turnover, employees, that kind of stuff, and provides 75.5% of the current price turnover data used in the compilation of the index of production. It also provides over 90% of the data used to estimate the number of employees in the production industries. Oh, gone too far. Another thing to note about the MPI is that it's designed to meet the government need for the production of a monthly index of production. It's also used to estimate the change in the total number of employee jobs in the production industries each month. In addition to that, it provides 16.5% of the output measure of GDP. Let's next have a look at a data set which is particularly focused on employment relations, which is the Workplace Employment Relations Survey. Now this has a cross-section survey of managers, a cross-section survey of employee representatives, and a cross-section survey of employees. Now the information from the cross-section survey of manager covers areas such as recruitment and training, consultation and communication, employee representation, pay determination, payment systems, grievance and discipline, equal ops, work-life balance, health and safety, flexibility, establishment performance, attitudes to work, all kinds of things. It's just a few of them. The information from the cross-section survey of employee representatives includes structure of representation at the workplace, time spent on representative duties, means of communication with employees, incidents of negotiation and consultation over pay and other things, involvement in redundancies, discipline and grievance matters, and quite a lot of other stuff as well. The third cross-section survey of employees covers things like working hours, job influence, job satisfaction, working arrangements, training and skills, information and consultation, employee representation and pay. So yeah, that, as you can see, it covers quite a wide area. So some words-based sort of topic areas, some publications that have come out of that. Again, just a tiny snapshot. We've got things here on multi-skilling, disability and earnings, workplace performance and loyalty, and the gender pay gap. Let's have a look at another area here. There are a couple of data sets that cover international trade and foreign direct investment. The first is the annual inquiry into foreign direct investment itself, 1996 to 2016, the AFDI, and the international trade in services. Now, the annual inquiry into foreign direct investment, the first of those, holds information on UK companies and their foreign affiliates, and there's information in there on the country of operation, the industry, the percent of equity held, operating profits, transactions, flows of equity capital, acquisitions and disposals of equity capital, levels of investment, and much more actually. The surveys are sent to enterprise group heads. So essentially that means the headquarters of a company, which in turn may own a number of smaller companies based in the UK. So it has info on UK companies and their foreign affiliates. Inward FDI relates to foreign investment into the UK, whereas outward relates to investment by UK-based companies overseas. Coverage-wise, we're looking at around 8,000 to 21,000 enterprises for outward FDI and 2,000 to 35,000 for inward. So yeah, that's that one. The register from which the firms are sampled comes from a number of sources actually, including HM Revenue and Customs, and ONS inquiries on acquisitions and mergers, so it's made up from various sources. Let's finally have a look at environment as a broad area. Now what do we have here? We have the quarterly fuels inquiry. This looks at the volume and the value of fuel purchased in the preceding quarter. So it has, where are we? It has stuff on coal, coke, heavy and medium fuel oil, gas oil, liquefied petroleum gas, that kind of stuff. And then we have also under this broader heading the DECC Low Emissions R&D Survey. Now what this does is has this main focus on business R&D aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So it looks at expenditure on low emissions R&D, trialling and deploying the material, product or process in a working environment on a pre-commercial basis. It looks also at support from government incentives in this area. It looks at lower energy consumption and renewable energy. And what it does, it's essentially surveying the top 4,000 innovators in the country. However, a word of warning here, it only has a 50% response rate. The survey provides only an indication really therefore of investment levels. And you should take care when comparing this with data based on different levels of response. But nonetheless, there are still some very interesting elements here. Okay, having gone through, a bit of a snapshot really of some very broad areas. Obviously, I've barely scratched the surface in some parts really. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Beata, who will explain how the data set's structured, how to apply it, and various other aspects.
Hello. So, I will continue now with the structure of the data sets James has just introduced to you. So this is an overview of how these datasets are structured. All of the ONS business datasets are sampled from a file ONS holds, which is called Interdepartmental Business Register or IDBR. IDBR is a list of all UK businesses with the exception of very small businesses. Exceptions are businesses that generate a turnover below the value-added tax threshold or which do not pay employees via a pay-as-you-earn scheme. Within IDBR, businesses are structured according to three identifiers. Enterprise group, a group which owns a number of companies and makes the legal and financial decisions about its companies. Not all companies belong to an enterprise group though. The enterprise can be thought of as a company. And the local unit is a premise belonging to the company, where some economic activity occurs. These are also called plants. An example is a retail outlet, another one is a factory. The reporting unit is created by ONS for purposes of sending surveys to collect data. It holds a mailing address to which the survey questionnaires are sent. The questionnaire can cover the enterprise as a whole or parts of the enterprise identified by lists of local units. For ONS business surveys, the data are generally collected for enterprise and in some cases for the local unit, which with enterprise group codes used to show the overall ownership. Now, it might become a little bit more clear with that slide. So this diagram shows how the framework works in practice. On the left-hand side, we have a small company called Island Cafe that is all made up now. In this case, there is no enterprise group because there is just the one cafe, which is not owned by a group head. The enterprise is the same as a reporting unit, which is the same as a local unit. They are all based at the same premises. In the dataset, the reference numbers for the enterprise, local unit, and reporting unit will be all consistent. Now, on the right-hand side, we see a more complex organization. The Enterprise Group Restaurant plc owns two companies, Fast Food Co. and Dining Co. The first company, Fast Food Co., owns two local units, Burger World and Chicken Express. The second company, Dining Co., has one local unit, The Vine. In the dataset, the two companies will share the same Enterprise Group reference. Both Burger World and Chicken Express will share the same enterprise reference, but will have different local unit references as they are separate premises. The Vine will have its own local unit reference, with its enterprise being the Dining Co. Now, as my colleague James said already, the beauty of the data is that you can link them. Most of them are linkable. Some of the most common linkages are the Annual Survey of Hours and Earnings survey linked to Workplace Employment Relations Survey, WERS, or as a business structure database to the UKIS, or another one is Annual Respondents Database linked to WERS, and the fourth one as an example is ASH to the Employer Skills Survey. However, knowing that the data can be linked doesn't mean you can link them unless you have permission to do so. So one option is to basically announce in your project application that you would like to link certain data sets, and by having then approved your project application, you have permission to do so. Otherwise, if further down the line within your project you find out you will need an additional data set, or you will need to link another data set to your existing ones, you can always get back to us and that can be arranged. But you will need the permission of both of the owners of both data sets that you wish to link. Now, how to apply to access these data? It is a 4-step application process. So first you find the data set you wish to use. Then you apply for using the data via us, via the UK Data Service. Then you complete an accredited researcher application form, and fourth, you will need to attend a training course. First, how to search for data. This slide shows you how to search for all controlled business data that we hold. So you go to our website, you click on Get Data, Key Data, and then you find all the key data we hold, amongst others the business microdata. When you click on that link and you scroll down the page, you find at the bottom of that page Data Catalog of Business Microdata. When you click on that link, you will be prompted a page displaying all the 151 results it gives you. And you will notice that on the left-hand side, access is by default set to controlled, for controlled business data. Now, you just searched for all possible business data sets, but if you want to look for a specific one, how would you go about that? Again, that's our website, and you would just type your search term into our catalog search box. So here, business innovation. My colleague James has talked a lot about the business innovation service and in more detail, so I think it makes sense to show you how you would find that particular one. So you type in business innovation, and then it shows you a list of 109 results, and luckily the second one is the UK Innovation Survey, 1994 to 2016. James has told you more about. And I will now help you to familiarize yourselves with how it looks and where to find what sort of information to access the data. So you click on that link, and what you see next is what we call the catalog record of the UK Innovation Survey. And here you find details, documentation, resources, and access. And first we look at details. So you can see you find the titles, the study numbers, the persistent identifier, etc., etc. And when you scroll down, you will also find, and that's very important, the data citation for the study. So this is a complete data citation, which you will need to include into your output. But having said that, we are now looking at the website, and this will not be available in the Secure Lab when you're working with the Secure Lab data. There's no connection to the web. So what you will do there, you will just find that information in the study information file, and you can just copy and paste it from there and include it into your output. If you have any questions, you can always ask us for help. Now, this is what the documentation will contain. And very, very important here, I find, is a UK Data Archive Data Dictionary. So even before you apply for the data, you will be able to see all the variables included, and you can then decide whether that is actually the data set suitable for your research purposes. Now, next step, how to apply for these data. So you go to Access, and what you see here, when you're not logged in yet, you will see at the bottom, you must be a registered user and logged in to access the study. And I suggest that you presumably by then will be a registered user. If not, it is available online on our website, how to go about it. It's very easy. You provide a couple of details. And then please log in, because that gives you then the chance to apply for the study. The screen will look like that, and you can see it has changed now to add these data to your account, Secure Lab Remote Access. And here, it will actually prompt you with the application form you will then have to complete. So the third step to become an accredited researcher has begun. So you complete the accredited researcher form, and we will then send your form to the data owner for approval. And if you have any project colleagues, if you're not working on your own, they should do this too. And please remember, include as much detail as possible. So about your professional background, any papers, conference presentations you have done, also your experience of using microdata. Provide a sufficient project description, why you need these data, why you need this level of detail. And finally, please mention any data linkage you are aware of at the project application stage. And the last step is training. So after approval, you will be offered a range of dates to attend the training course. You just need to pick one. And upon successful completion, we will then issue you with your Secure Lab account credentials. You can log in and work with the data remotely. So the training contains 3 modules. First, using the Secure Lab. Second, your role in data protection. And third, statistical disclosure control. And please remember, this is not a box-ticking exercise. Really understanding is crucial, as we don't want to risk any disclosure. I'm very pleased to say that we also provide access to international business data via the UK Data Service. So since 2015, we have an agreement with the IAB, with the Institute for Employment Research in Germany, to make their data available via our safe room here at the University of Essex. And the datasets available can be found at the URL that I have provided here. However, this is how it looks. So this is their website and an overview of the data. But because it doesn't all fit on one slide, I have provided here a little bit of an overview of which data you can find at the Institute for Employment Research, IAB FTZ. So the data products offered by the FTZ include data from administrative sources, for example, notifications of employers to the social security institutions, and data from the operative processes of the Federal Employment Agency, as well as survey data. The level of investigation comprises individuals, households, and establishments, and the merger of both. At the IAB Social Security notifications of employers and process-generated data of the BA are subsumed into the Integrated Employment Biographies, IAB dataset. The IAB includes individual labor market biographies in Germany from 1975 onwards. The FTZ offers access to these data in the form of the sample of Integrated Labor Market Biographies, CIAB. Additionally, administrative establishment data is generated by aggregating the individual employment histories, and that's the Establishment History Panel, BHP. But as I said, they are not only administrative data, but also survey data. So the FTZ provides access to data from various surveys of individuals, households, or establishments. These surveys are either conducted by IAB itself or by external researchers. Of particular importance are the longitudinal surveys of the IAB Establishment Panel, BP, or the Panel Study Labor Market and Social Security, PAS, and the German Job Vacancy Survey at the IAB. And also they provide linked data, among other things. They create integrated establishment and individual data, allowing for simultaneous analysis of the supply and demand side of the German labor market. The linked employer-employee data of the IAB, LIAB, for example, combine interviews from the IAB Establishment Panel with the IAB. I'm very pleased to say that we now also host an access point to the French Secure Access Data Center, CASD. So we have set up a secure data access point within the UK Data Service safe room here at the University of Essex to facilitate on-site direct remote access to the CASD data from UK. And again, I have provided an URL to their data catalog and also a link how to apply for this data. It's really very fresh. We hold that access point since October 2018, so for about a month. This is the data catalog of CASD. And because it is actually containing 269 studies, which I cannot summarize, I will just provide you with a list of themes and a list of producers to give you a flavor of what is included. So Their range goes from business demography data, characteristics of enterprises, constructions, death mortality, life expectancy, economic outlook, employment, labor force, foreigners, immigrants, health, handicap, dependency, household consumption, to social protection, unemployment, wages and salaries. And the producer list includes the National Statistical Institute, the Ministries of Labor, Environment, Finance and Justice, the Central Agency for Social Security, the Institute for Research and Information in Health Economics, Public Investment Bank is included, and also hospital stays and a Directorate for Enterprises. I'm very pleased to say that this is due to our involvement in the International Data Access Network, which was founded in 2018, IDEN, and it is part of our project Transnational Access to Controlled Microdata. The next step will be to provide access to CBS data, so the National Statistical Institute of the Netherlands. And you can see here that 6 research data centers are involved in the International Data Access Network, 4 countries. So that's the UK, the Netherlands, Germany and France. And as I said, the next step will be hopefully to get access via our safe room to the Dutch data. That's it from us for today. Any questions? Well, there is a question whether the slides will be made available afterwards. Yes, I think my colleague James has mentioned in the beginning that you will need to go to our website and click on News and Events under then Past Events. You will find the slides uploaded, and also maybe in 2 weeks' time the recording will be available, and you find it under the event Key Data Business Data. And so you didn't need to scribble everything down, you can see it afterwards. Can we access similar data for the French and the German data as the UK's BSD, ASH and Innovation Survey? Yes, and actually what is quite encouraging is that within the network that I described, the IDEN, there are also movements and developments to now create comparability tables so that you can see which data set contains what sort of information and how you could then compare those. But that's at the very beginning. As I said, it was founded this year, so I mean there's lots of work to do. However, when you go to the particular catalogs that I have shown you where to go and provided the URLs to, you will be able to search for those keywords, and you will be given lists of dataset that contain the information you are looking for. So you will then be able to filter it down. Is the process the same for students to access the data? I assume the question is the process for students the same as for staff? Well, you will need to be a master student or postgraduate student, PhD student, in order to access the QLab data. And then the process is the same, yeah. How long is the expected turnaround for an application to access the Secure Lab? Well, actually, we tend to say 4 to 6 weeks. And what can be done if the data application is not accepted? Okay, so back to the first question, how long does it take? 4 to 6 weeks, and that is because once you have actually submitted your application form, and it really depends how thoroughly you have prepared your application, if all the information is there, if all the justification for needing that level of detail is there, then it will go straight through to the data depositor or data owner for approval. But there are only certain times when the microdata release panels will meet, and the microdata access panels will meet and decide about applications. So that might be once a month or twice a month, and depending on that we will get the response, and then you will need to undergo training, which is 1 day. So that's why 4 to 6 weeks. What can be done if the data application is not accepted? To be very honest, I don't think we have many data applications that are not accepted. One thing is also we are screening your application here at the UK Data Service before we send it off to the data owner. So we would spot any gaps and get back to you and ask you to complete those before it goes any further. I think there are no more questions. So from my colleague James and I, thank you very much for attending and goodbye.